Welcome to admin. This is an admin, public meeting. We're going to begin with a pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Missoula County acknowledges that this event takes place in the Aboriginal territories of the Salish and Coos Bay people. We have some closed captioning announcements or availability.
Hello, everyone. If you're joining us for this meeting virtually today, instructions for turning on closed captioning are on your screen. If you're joining us in person, we'll have closed captioning on all the screens here in the Sophie Muiz room. There will be multiple chances during the meeting for public comment virtually and in person. During those times, if you'd like to speak, we ask that you use the raise hand feature. If you're on Microsoft Teams, this is the small hand button. If you're calling in on the phone, you'll need to hit *5 to raise your hand. Once called upon, you'll need to hit *6 to unmute. If you have any questions during the meeting, please come and find me. Thank you. Back to Juanita.
Thanks, Cheryl. We have a proclamation to read.
Got it.
Commissioner Slotnick.
Whereas residents play a vital role in caring for Missoula County public lands, and whereas these residents are exemplary stewards throughout the county, engaging in voluntary projects and practices that maintain and enhance our outdoor spaces. And whereas Missoula County, through the Parks and Trails Stewardship Award, wishes to recognize and thank these stewards, as well as promote their stewardship success stories so others may learn and be inspired by their work. And whereas the Missoula County Parks and Trails Advisory Board reviewed the nominations for 2025 and made a recommendation for the recipient of the Parks and Trails Stewardship Award. Now, therefore, we, the Missoula Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim Richard Weston as the recipient of the 2025 Missoula County Parks and Trails Steward Award in honor of his dedication to maintaining and enhancing the Seeley Lake Lions Park. Rich has generously devoted countless hours to park upkeep, coordinated community events, and helped add new amenities that benefit all who visit. Thanks to his tireless efforts, the Seeley Lake Lions Park has become a vibrant and welcoming hub for the community that will thrive for years to come. Rich embodies the spirit of sustained community service, and we are deeply grateful for his steadfast commitment to volunteerism. Dated this 7th day of August 2025, your Missoula County Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
Yes. Nick.
Thank you, Commissioners. We had a great celebration yesterday up in Seeley. Thank you all for attending. Thank you, Richard, and the Lions Club and all of their Seeley Lake community members for attending as well. It was great to see everyone out and about. I was going to let Ron from our Parks Trails Board, he's the Vice President, say a few words on behalf of the Parks Trails Advisory Board.
Thank you.
Howdy, Ron Slater, member of the Missoula County Parks and Trails Citizen Advisory Committee. I'll make this short. 3 years ago, the committee and the CAP staff and I believe Mr. Strohmeyer, we all went up to Seeley Lake and presented the Lions Club members with the award for the Seeley Lake Veterans Memorial Garden. After that, we all went over to the Seeley Lake Lions Park, where Mr. Weston gave us a grand tour of the park. And it was like a park. It had the picnic tables and the trail around the pond and all that. But when we got over to the one side over there, his eyes lit up like a little kid at Christmas time. And he says, this is where the playground's going to go. He says the slide's going to go here. The monkey bars are going to go here. Well, we're standing there looking at this, and it was steep, brush covered, tree covered, and stumps. And we're sitting there scratching our head, and we'd already awarded a grant money for the construction of this park. And you could tell just by the enthusiasm that he showed for this little chunk of ground that was really nothing when we looked at it, that he was going to turn that into a playground for the kids in town. And when I was up there yesterday, that's the first time I'd seen it, and believe me, when we looked at it 3 years ago, it looked like a typical Seeley Lake huckleberry patch, but it was a playground. We looked at it yesterday. And when the committee We had 5 or 6 nominations, I think. We weeded it down to 2. And after Nick got done talking about the playground up there, it was a pretty easy choice. And the committee unanimously voted for Rich Weston to receive this award. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ron. There any other celebratory comments? Or Rich, come on up.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want to thank everybody in the county. This was a partnership from the word go, and not just monetarily. These folks from Open Parks and Land were amazing. I wish Jackson was here. He is amazing. He was turning wrenches with me and digging holes, and we were both drinking Gatorade, wondering why we're out here. So I just can't say enough about the partnership, and I'm positive it's going to continue on like that. And this isn't about me, it's about the club. And it was a club effort, and the community raised a lot of funds for the matching grant. So the community is very vested in it. It's a very positive thing all the way around. Not one negative thing that I can think of out of this whole thing. It's just been nothing but a few hurdles, but very positive. And I just want to thank the commission and the county and everybody from this fine office over here. Appreciate it. And I appreciate the recognition. It's been a lot of hard work, but it's worth it. Thank you.
Thank you. There. Oh,
Yes. As a matter of fact. So yes, Richard, while this certainly was a community and a club and a team effort, your individual efforts really do stand out. And I think you are a great example to community members of how volunteerism is alive and well in not only Sealy Lake, but Montana and America. So thank you for all that you have done and will continue to do. And as Ron mentioned, the park has been greatly transformed over the past number of years. And I think it's a shining example of what our parks and trails can look like in Missoula County. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the comments. Thank you.
I think Dennis Bragg is going to corner you in the hallway. It's- Okay, well, thank you all. And any other public comments? Oh, yes, go ahead.
And I just want to give you permission that if you don't want to stick around for everything else, you don't have to. You certainly can, but don't feel compelled to. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, not seeing any other public comments. Our current claims list received as of July 22nd to July 30th, 2025 by the Commissioner's Office totals $2,995,483.32. We have 2 hearings today. Our final hearing on health code regulation on wastewater treatment disposal with Charlie Shane. Yeah, come on up. And then the second one's a resolution with Public Works Director Jason Mitchell.
Can I just share my screen with you?
I think. Looks good.
Okay. My name is Charlie Shane. I am an environmental health manager at Missoula Public Health, and I'm here today to discuss adoption of the revised version of Regulation 1, wastewater treatment and disposal systems, as approved by the Health Board. All right, so in Montana, both the state and local government set rules governing the permitting and installation of on-site wastewater treatment and disposal systems, more commonly referred to as septic systems. The purpose of these rules are to protect public health and environmental quality from risks associated with improper disposal of wastewater. DEQ Circular 4 outlines the minimum design standards for size, design, construction of, or design and construction of wastewater treatment systems, and are rules set out by the state. Regulation 1, on the other hand, of the Missoula City County Health Code sets local wastewater regulations. So local regulation of wastewater treatment and disposal systems is required under state law and may be no less stringent than those standards set by the state. Okay, so DEQ recently changed their rules in that circular we just mentioned to allow new on-site wastewater systems in Phil. This was in response to a directive by the 2023 legislature. Up until then, these types of systems could only be placed in Phil if they were a replacement of an existing system. Missoula has had our on-site wastewater treatment system regulation since 1966, and that was last updated in 2018. And currently, fill systems are prohibited under our local regulations. In most cases, the only situations where we can allow it are in those replacement and some advanced treatment systems as well. Now that DEQ allows for systems in fill, we, the county, have the ability to add this option to our local health code as well. What this does is it gives developers and property owners more flexibility on difficult and disturbed kind of sites. So these fill systems were previously prohibited because if they're not constructed properly, wastewater can surface and potentially expose people, animals, and pets to pathogens present in wastewater streams. However, these new DEQ rules have requirements and design criteria in place to ensure wastewater does not seep out of fill. So what exactly is a fill system? So fill is artificially placed soil, generally used to level the ground surface and fill in depressions, making it more suitable for a drain field. So in wastewater treatment systems, fill is used to repair or modify damaged and disturbed sites, like we talked about earlier, in order to create these suitable locations. There are very specific requirements for soil when it comes to these fill systems under these DEQ standards, such as prohibitions on installing in tight soils, so clays, silts, things that really don't percolate very well. The fill material itself, so that material they bring in to fill in these depressions or excavations, can't be finer than like a sandy loam, something that percolates pretty well and actually has really good treatment properties. Additionally, this fill material or fill drain fields themselves can't be used to overcome any vertical or horizontal setbacks. So horizontal setbacks would be things like surface water, floodplains, and steep slopes. And vertical separations would be like limiting layers, so bedrock, groundwater, things like that. So DEQ has additional design and approval criteria above and beyond that of a conventional wastewater treatment system. These include engineered design reports, which must be approved prior to the placement of that fill material, additional soil testing. The fill material has to be placed into engineered and designed lifts that are then compacted to achieve a stable soil structure. And then once this is all put in place and we've kind of conducted our initial inspection, certifications and as-builts from like the engineer that designed the system are required within 90 days to finalize inspection and approval of that system for use. All right, so the change to our wastewater treatment and disposal regulations. So regulation 1 was fairly simple. We moved the discussion of septic systems and fill out of the replacement system section and into the design and location section. These systems and fill will be required to meet all of the DEQ design standards set out in DEQ 4, all the construction criteria and the siting criteria as well. And it's made clear that fill cannot be used to overcome these horizontal or vertical setbacks in our regulations as well. So state law, as I discussed earlier, requires the health board, or requires us to adopt regulations more stringent than, or not more stringent than their standards already set out. And it requires the health board to recommend rules and rule changes to the local governing body. In Missoula, the interlocal agreement creating the city county health board and the health department states that the local governing body is both the county commissioners and the city council. So both the county commissioners and city council have previously adopted the health code by reference, and the health board has previously this year held 2 public hearings on the approved changes and recommended that the local governing bodies adopt the revised Regulation 1 by reference. There was no public comment regarding the Board of Health hearings, other than a recommendation to approve by the Missoula County Water Quality Advisory Council. So what this looks like for the county commissioners would be a resolution to adopt an ordinance that replaces the current version of Regulation 1, wastewater treatment and disposal systems, which was adopted under Ordinance 2022-003, with the new version of the Health Board approved wastewater regulations, which they approved on April 17th of this year, so 2025, by reference. And the proposed motion is right here. I'll just stand by for questions.
Any questions, or Jacob, do you have anything to add? Sorry, attorney?
I guess I would just add in summarizing that it's essentially just bringing the Health Code Regulation 1 in conformity with the state requirements in DEQ Circular 4. So it's not a dramatic change. I understand that there were some specific requests that this from individuals in the community to allow this type of infill, and ultimately it's I think a good thing, and makes those consistent between the state and the local health code. So that conformity is good.
Thank you.
If the DEQ stands alone, they'll be lonely. We should join them.
Yes.
So are we adopting a resolution of intent or a resolution itself? Because usually the resolution of intent is that we are going to be doing something at a future date, as opposed to adopting a resolution to, or simply adopting the ordinance.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely sure of the entire process.
Is
sometimes.
this the final action today?
Can be, I think. I think this is the second public hearing.
Then we wouldn't have intent in here. We would
We would
just
just adopt.
adopt. an
Adopt the
ordinance
resolution,
revising.
adopting the ordinance?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, like, can we strike
Can we-
the words intent? Pass a resolution to adopt.
I think whoever makes the motion, yeah. Thanks.
Yep, absolutely.
Good catch, Dave.
Yes. Good for you. So, was that a motion?
There it is.
Public comment?
Oh, yes. Sorry to be rushing. Is there any public comment? Okay, not seeing any in the room or online.
Okay, I'll make the motion. I move that we adopt a resolution, to adopt an ordinance revising Missoula City County Health Code Regulation 1 wastewater treatment and disposal systems as approved by the Health Board on April 17, 2025.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion or public comment? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, our next hearing is a resolution on the mill levy election in support of Missoula County public infrastructure. So first we'll have a presentation from Jason Mitchell, right? There we go.
I believe Chris
Good
Lansbury
afternoon.
was going to start.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Chris
No,
Lounsbury.
no worries. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Chris Lounsbury, the Chief Administrative Officer for Missoula County. Jason and I are going to each present here a little bit, but I'm going to start off with this. So just a little bit of history. Last year at about the same time, Missoula County, the Missoula County Board of County Commissioners heard a presentation from then Public Works Director Shane Stack and myself around the idea of considering putting to the county electors a request for a levy specifically to fund infrastructure. And I wanted to talk just a little bit before Jason goes into some of the needs, kind of why this ask and why we're asking for it now. So as the board might recall, back in 2020, at the behest of the Montana legislature, Missoula County put on the ballot and voters approved a local option gas tax specifically used to fund infrastructure for roads. and bridges. Unfortunately, during the next legislative session, that authority was repealed by the state of Montana. But even in the short time that it was out there, we were able to collect some data and some funding on that. And that funding was used to make us more competitive when we were applying for federal grants. And coming out of that, we did have some success using that funding towards local infrastructure projects. And then during the 2023 legislative session, the legislature, during a historic surplus, moved some money to local infrastructure projects with the work of the legislature and the governor. And again, Missoula County had some great success in applying for those projects and being able to address some infrastructure needs around roads and bridges. But unfortunately, that funding expired with this last legislative session. And through efforts of Commissioner Slotnick, House Bill 489 was introduced during this session that would have allowed for a local option tourism tax, specifically for property tax relief and infrastructure. But unfortunately, that did not come out of committee. And as we look at the future of funding for local infrastructure projects, what we are seeing is just the need for greater ability for the county to have local match dollars when we go after state and federal grants. And that, unfortunately, is just not something the current budget will allow us to do. We really do have a number of big challenges facing the county in this area of public infrastructure. As Jason will go through, we have a number of weight-limited bridges that really make it difficult for emergency responders to be able to move around and get to areas of our community. In the last 2 years, we've seen a couple of bridge closures or detours that have gone in place, including McClay and Boy Scout Bridge. We have, deteriorating pavement and maintenance needs. And we also have increased a significant number of our shared use paths out along Mullen Road and Highway 93 South that will need a source of funding in the future to maintain them. And they have become real huge public amenities for folks. The trail connecting Missoula to Hamilton along Highway 93 South is used heavily by both folks from Missoula and all over as they're in this area. So I'm going to stop talking for just a few minutes and let our Public Works Director, our Chief Public Works Officer, Jason Mitchell, kind of go through some of what the county is facing for needs. And then once he's had a chance to do that, I'll come back and talk a little bit about what the ask is that staff is making of the board today.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Hello, commissioners and members of the public. I just wanted to share a little bit about the infrastructure needs here in Missoula County. Kind of a high level is that we manage about 450 miles of maintained roads in Missoula County. 264 of those miles are paved and 186 of the miles are gravel roads. And we actually have 63 miles of non-maintained roads within the county. Excuse me here. Let me just minimize this. We also have oversight of city and county bridges. So we manage 61 bridges that are over 20 feet long and 62 bridges that are under 20 feet long. The distinction there is that MDT actually performs the inspections on the bridges that are over 20 feet long. We also manage 346 culverts. And just to add, these numbers are very conservative. A bridge per state statute is any kind of structure that aids in getting over a natural waterway. And so we have probably another 400 culverts and sumps within the county that don't fit that description, but are also under our purview. So making it roughly 800 culverts within our purview. And it's just important to note that many of these county roads are crossing city and county boundaries and provide access to much loved recreation areas such as the Rattlesnake, Patty Canyon, and Blue Mountain. Okay, just a little bit about our current road and bridge revenue. I can just go through these pretty quickly, but our sum total for road fund revenue is about $6.13 million, and a lot of that comes from property tax, the Forest Reserve Act, which is through the sales of timber in the state of Montana. Gas tax, we get our proportionate share of gas purchases throughout the state of Montana. State entitlement comes often from liquor and tobacco sales and gambling. Medical levy is tax That's in excess of what we pay for group benefits here in the county. So the bridge total for revenue is 1.38 million. And so here's what we budget for the year. Approximately 50%, a little bit greater of our bridge and road and bridge budget is personnel. Operations is about 2.17 million. And in that operations budget, we also include fleet, which is the maintenance of all of our vehicles for plowing and for our graders for grading the roads. There's also about $700,000 in materials, which is tack oil and chips and asphalt and de-icers and salt, and about $300,000 of administrative costs for cell phones, radios, power to our facilities. And then the equipment budget, about $750,000, which we've been struggling to get our fleet to where it needs to be. And I think we're starting to get to a good spot, but now the important part is having money for materials. And so with that, we have about $280K in capital projects, bringing our total road and bridge budget to about $7.8 million. So as we stated before, 264 miles of those roads that we manage are paved roads, and that's increasing probably monthly with new subdivisions and trying to convert some of our gravel roads to pavement. The recommended maintenance schedule for these types of roads per the Federal Highway Administration is to do an overlay about every 20 years and a chip seal every 10 years. So if we carry those costs across at $180,000 a mile, which again is a pretty conservative cost, rough estimate now is probably about $200,000 per mile. We've got about 2.34 million what we should be spending every year just in materials. That's with us performing the actual paving using our labor. If we were to go outsource with this and get a contractor to do this, it would probably be 3 to 4 times that amount. And then with the chip sealing, it's about $600,000 we should be spending a year. So that brings our total preventative maintenance cost to $2.94 million. And this year in fiscal year 26, we're proposed to spend $550K. So that's a pretty big delta there, about 2.44 million. And again, those maintenance costs are extremely conservative with materials only. That's with us providing the labor. So this is a pavement condition index that was completed in 2019 and 2020. We just did another one in 2025 so we can compare to see how much our asphalt has degraded. But at that time in 2020, the firm was suggesting that we should spend 3.8 to 5 million per year to remedy our pavement situation. Total cost to address the deficiencies in 2020 dollars is $23.25 million. And just a little bit about the pavement condition index. Obviously, the lower the number, the worse off it is. So a lot of our miles throughout the county are below that 50% threshold. Just a few examples of degraded roads. Big Flat Road, we get consistent complaints about this one. There's a distressed road in Elmar. Just a picture of some of the pavement throughout the county. So just switching the bridges, as we stated, there's 61 bridges over 20 feet long and 62 bridges under 20 feet long and 346 culverts. And just some bridge information here, some of the bridges that are currently load posted. So as our bridges continue to degrade, MDT actually performs inspection, as do in-house public works staff through our county engineer. But MDT will come and place low limits on the bridges that they see are beginning to degrade. And then eventually you'll see what you see with Boy Scout Bridge, which is complete closure. And that often happens quick. I mean, Boy Scout Bridge went from a low limit to completely closed, I think, in a matter of a year. And then scour critical means that the bridges or the pilings are starting to show some sign of degradation. And so we have 4 bridges that are currently in that status. One Rock Creek Road bridge we were able to mitigate, but we're waiting to get that certified by an engineer. And just a little bit about how much bridges cost. McClay Bridge would cost about $30 million to rebuild, to take down and rebuild. And then Boy Scout Bridge, through the preliminary engineering report, shows about 13.2 million. So these bridges are not cheap, and they keep getting more and more expensive is the problem. So the longer that we wait to fix these bridges is the more expensive they're going to be, because commercial construction continues to go up roughly 6 to 8% per year. And so if we look at overall in the county and city, the total costs on a 75-year life cycle to replace our bridges, it would be about 165 million. And again, these numbers are pretty conservative. At the time we figured, did the calculations on these bridges, it was about $750 per square foot to replace a bridge. Some of the engineering firms around Missoula are now saying it's probably $1,000 to $1,100 per square foot to replace the bridge. So this could be, in the area of 100 million shy of really where we need to be. So it's a worrisome picture. And so over a 75-year life cycle, we really should be spending about 2.2 million just on bridge replacement, not labor or just materials. And so here's a couple of pictures of bridges that have been damaged. As I stated before, Boy Scout Bridge is closed. Lolo Street Bridge, we were actually able to get federal grants to be able to do that. But again, those grants take local match dollars. And so for every dollar that we can get into the Public Works Road and Bridge budget, we can, on average, see about 4 to 6 times that through federal grant dollar match. And just to kind of sum it all up here, so if we're looking at just road materials and bridges of where we should be spending, and it's about 5.14 million per year. If we look at our total budgeted amount, it's about 550,000. So that leaves a total yearly deficit of 4.59 million. And finally, here's just a little sufficiency rating schedule. MDT does sufficiency ratings on all of our bridges over 20 feet. And you can see here about 26 of our bridges are below the 80% threshold. And again, as you get lower in number, it's the worse off the bridges are in their current situation. Thank you for your time, commissioners and public. Any questions?
And this presentation is also available where?
We'll make it available on the website, on the Public Works website.
It's on the Missoula County Voice page too as well, commissioners.
Great, thank you. Oh, Ted Morgan, I'm assuming it's Ted Morgan from Condon?
Yes, ma'am. How are you, commissioners? Thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate it. I just wanted to see, for this funding, is this only going to go to match dollars for grants, or is this to cover any more personnel, or what specifically would this be covering? Just because I know mill levies are obviously specific, if fast.
Yeah, great question. So specifically it'll be used for road and bridge, but I was just talking with our road supervisors this morning, and we believe the best use of these funds would be for materials. Our previous director was able to get a lot of the equipment we need, pavers and distributor trucks. And so with this money, we'll be able to actually purchase the materials, the asphalt that we need to be able to do overlays. So I think the best use of these funds are keeping the bridges from being closed and load limits and materials for roads. I think that's really going to be the best bang for our buck.
Okay.
Thanks,
Sorry, I just had some follow-up questions as well. Just in regards to the Condon area, that's where we live. You guys now have a shared gravel pit with the Forest Service up Barber Creek. I want to know if that's being used to obviously lower the payments, because initially I think that roads crew was shipping material up all the way from Sealy. So I'm just looking for ways to save the department money to put towards these things that matter to a lot of us, up here. And we usually only get one grader a year as well. So we'd like to, just see how that's reflecting that gravel pit site.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So the DEQ, we're actually working with them over the next year to do well monitoring. And what we need to do is in that site specifically determine the groundwater level. And then once we determine the groundwater level, we can know how deep we can dig for gravel. We just hired a person in the Sealy Lake region who's also going to be doing Treasury service eventually. not right off the bat, but she's very familiar with the DEQ requirements, and I've asked her one of the first things to look at is working with the DEQ to get that gravel pit open for mining.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for your answers.
Yeah, just if you don't mind, just an additional point on that, we were able to purchase a crusher this year, which is mobile, so we'll be able to move that throughout the county to be able to crush, so we can save logistical costs there. As you know, the county is a very large county, and one of the biggest problems we have is logistics. It's great that we have gravel and maybe in Lolo or in Condon, but getting it to where you need it is really the most important. So I really appreciate your question.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ted. And yeah, thanks, Jason. And I just realized, Chris, I wasn't sure if you were done with your presentation, so we'll check back in with you.
Yeah, no worries, commissioners. Certainly, we can do multiple rounds here. I have a few more things just to again kind of set the stage for what the ask is, and it'll provide some financial information. But certainly want to give folks a chance to ask Jason questions. So happy to hold until after that part.
There any other questions for Jason? Okay, Chris, on to you.
Thanks, commissioners, and we'll just switch screen shares here really quick. And hopefully you can see the screen again here coming up. Looks like it changed. It's always a little tricky when we're remote here, and I apologize for being out. So just wanted to tack on to what Jason was saying. You know, we've had some real success in addressing some of our needs, things like the Lolo Street Bridge project, things like the Mullen Build area. But what we're seeing is it's becoming more and more difficult, especially as federal and state funding priorities are shifting. And programs are changing to require more and more match. The state has adopted a new policy for some of their grants coming out of the Cole Endowment that will now require a one-to-one match for funding out of that. And then, of course, the feds have gotten rid of or eliminated several programs that previously did not require match, things like Protect and others, and are moving back towards the build style grants, which do require some form of local match. And so we've had some real success in things like the Mullen Build area, the Lolo Bridge, but we've also had some real challenges. We've had 2 applications now, unfortunately, for the Boy Scout Bridge project that did not get funded at the federal level. And so that ability to provide match is really critical as we look at how we do that. And right now, there is not a good way for the county to come up with those match dollars based on kind of our funding needs. And as Jason pointed out, some of those. And so I know one of the big questions that we always get is there another way for the county to consider funding match dollars or material dollars? And the reality is, unfortunately, that there isn't. You know, the county is very limited in the way that it can provide services. Most of that is through property taxes. And the way that mills are worked in the state, they're very limited to the services they can provide and how they have to be divided up. And so really the only source of funding that we have for this right now is to provide millage or tax against properties that are outside the city limits and that are only in the county when we talk about roads, and then county-wide when we talk about bridges. And so this request today actually would allow us to uniformly tax across both the city and county for these projects, because they do interact with both city and county residents. And so this would have a different impact on the ability for our roads department to both use it as match when we look at those projects, but also as they begin to do that. And so the ask is to put before the voters a request for funding specifically for roads, bridges, and shared use paths or trails that would be used for the construction, repair, and maintenance of those facilities, such as Boy Scout Road. We did look really hard at what the right number was to put before voters, recognizing that property taxes are, even with changes at the legislative level, a really difficult ask for folks as we look at the real challenges around the way property taxes have escalated, especially in the residential space with some of the burden shift that has happened previously and that we hope will shift back this year. And so as we've talked about that, the number that we've looked at is about $1.8 million in ask to the public. And what that would allow us to do is leverage those funds when we apply for federal grants, as well as in the years where we are not successful to use those funds directly towards materials, as our Chief Public Works Officer was just talking about. That translates to about $3.80 per $100,000 in value. And with the changes the legislature made this year, it's a little bit different in calculating a $600,000. It's not just the same as multiplying 380 times 6 anymore. And so for a $600,000 home, which is roughly the median price in Missoula, you'd be looking at $26.21 per year, or about $2 per month for the average home in Missoula County. And so with that, I do have a proposed motion, but certainly would like the opportunity for the public to weigh in on this and to hear from the commission as well. But really, we are looking at these funds as a way to make sure that we're able to provide access to those critical areas for first responders, you know, when we talk about weight limited bridges and some of the rerouting that they're having to do, as well as just an ability to fund some of these really critical needs around roads and bridges in particular. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, commissioners, just for the public comment period. And then depending on the commission's will, if this is something that you would like to consider putting forward to the voters, I do have a proposed motion.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, we'll begin with some more public comment. Anyone in the room? Okay, not seeing anyone in the room. Online. Online. We'll just check, Ted, see if there's anyone else first, real quick. Okay, Ted, looks like you're the only one online.
Yeah. No, I feel like because at least, you know, ordinary people who just have one home up here in Condon, their taxes are going down if they don't own a commercial unit. So I know you guys tried to pass this the previous year, but this year, I mean, it is a very small amount. I just want to make sure that, you know, on off years, if we aren't getting those grants, why aren't we potentially creating like a savings fund of some sort, you know, just to hold on to them for the bridges? I mean, I'm sorry, I know I live in a really small area and it's rural and different than the paved streets, but when I looked at the pictures of the paved streets, they didn't seem that bad compared to some years in Condon, I'm not going to lie. So it would be nice to, you know, save some funds to, you know, finish those Barber Creek projects or finish these bridges off and potentially save that money, not just spend it every single year if it's not potentially needed. But that's my only comment. Yeah.
Thank you.
And so, commissioners, if I can address that, that's a really great question for Mr. Morgan. And I do think that is certainly an option. I think what we would be looking for is our Public Works Director and his crew to kind of make those decisions year to year and present them to the commissioner. I think there's definitely the opportunity to save those funds when we're looking at some of those, I'm going to call them smaller bridge projects, maybe the bridge projects that are between, you know, a few $100,000 and the $2 to $3 million range. And then we know we will have some years where we're going after those larger projects for federal match, where we may either have to save up for a couple of years to make the match or dedicate an entire year's worth to match. But that's a really good point brought up by Mr. Morgan.
I completely agree. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you for your answer. Appreciate it.
Go ahead.
Jason, would you mind going back to the slide where you had the actual total dollars required to meet our maintenance needs contrasted against the amount of money we spend?
Certainly.
The 550,000.
Yeah.
Can you see that one, Josh?
Yeah.
Should be coming through.
Okay.
Still slow on the Wi-Fi.
Yeah. So I just wanted to respond to what you said, Ted, which was great. If we can save money, we should, and be squirreling money away to fix bridges when we can, and we absolutely will. And we'll follow our director's direction. And I also want to call these two numbers out. We're spending $550,000 a year on maintenance. We should be at nearly $4.5 million. So the gap between $550,000 and $4.5 million is fantastically large, pretty much big enough to put a large bridge in, metaphorically. So hopefully we can get to a spot where we can save money. And in the immediate we are not meeting our maintenance needs. In fact, each year we go backwards. And the farther we go down the line in terms of moving into the future without addressing this, the deeper the hole we dig and the steeper the hill we have to climb, the larger the amount of money we have to come up with. So the sooner we deal with this, the better off we are. It's hard to imagine we get to a point where we have all of our maintenance needs done, but that would be fantastic.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, just to underscore that, certainly in the near term, and just to be completely transparent here, there will be no ability to save for a good bit of time just because of this delta here that we are so far away from both bringing existing infrastructure up to any sort of acceptable level of standard, and then also the delta with the ongoing maintenance.
What was that Lou Jones-ism? He was just quoted in the Pathfinder, I think, the fix it before it fails.
I just had one more public comment unless somebody else has one.
No, go ahead, Ted.
Could you go back to the slide that shows how much we're paying for employment inside that department? Is it 4.58 million?
Very close. Let me go back to be sure here. 4.58.
Okay, so personnel, are those all full-time employments, or are some of those contractual, agreements, or how does that kind of work around those?
Yeah, great question. That's all full-time employment. That's everyone within the road and bridge department. And so there's about 23 personnel, 18 that reported into Sealy, 18 that reported into Missoula, 5 that reported into Sealy. And that's an all-in cost for benefits, retirement, everything.
Okay. So my question to the commissioners are these awesome people who help us with our roads? Are they part of the public employees that get guaranteed salary raises per year after that deal that was struck?
Which deal?
So nobody's
With the
guaranteed
public
anything, but
employees.
Chris could speak to, he negotiates with our unions.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to know the percentage increase because I'm just like, obviously that number is going to keep going up each year too, and I just want to make that a point. So I think that we potentially might always need to be raising money for bridges if we can't repair them and they keep getting more expensive. Plus, we keep having to raise our personnel salary yearly.
Correct.
Very good point.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. No, I was going to say that is a great point, and I think that's why looking at a levy that is specifically dedicated towards the road and bridge kind of materials and construction side is the route that staff is proposing, as opposed to on the kind of personnel side.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Would love to point out, when we can do projects on our own as opposed to hire contractors, we save typically about 30%.
I would say way more than that, Josh.
3 to 4 times.
Yeah, easy. Yeah, we're probably about 20 to 25% of what a commercial contractor would charge, maybe less.
Thanks.
Stromer.
Griffin.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
thought you might have
I thought.
Okay.
Okay.
Looks like Mr.
Sorry,
Davis.
I thought your hand went up and then Josh said your name and then I thought I didn't see you. I'm sorry. Oh, thank you. Kevin Davis.
Commissioner Vera, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. Thanks, commissioners and staff, for this presentation. Very helpful. And I also host a Reserve Street Public Working Group every Friday. We've had a couple of meetings and presentations from the county and also from Montana Department of Transportation that all paint kind of a disconcerting picture about how we will fund these deferred maintenance items while all the while building new infrastructure to accommodate Missoula's growth. I just wanted to double check those figures. I think the other public commenter brought up about the personnel costs. So would my math be correct at about $200,000 per person for those 23 people, staff at the $4.58 million personnel costs?
Yeah, so we also employ 6 individuals in our fleet shop. So that number, the 23 for the road and bridge folks, but this also includes the fleet management team, which consists of offhand 5 mechanics and a parts person and a fleet manager as well.
Okay, so
So closer to 30.
So closer to 30. Okay, so just below maybe that $200,000 per person threshold, factoring salary, pensions, retirement benefits. Along those
That
lines.
sounds high to me, but I need to check on that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause it doesn't make sense that
No.
we don't have,
Our average, and I think I'd say this, with the collective bargaining unit, most of our road crew are at the $34 per hour range. And then so you would figure 35 to 40% of fringe benefit there, tops. And I don't know, Chris, if you can add to that, but definitely would not say $200,000 all in per employee.
So I'll just add that it would be helpful, and I'll invite anyone here to present at one of our upcoming meetings where we have more public engagement and questions, and maybe start with clarifying that figure, because that personnel cost, is ×2 operations and far above the other line items on this screen we're looking at. So that would be helpful to know. And I'll just add that just along those lines, I don't know if the public has an appetite for a property tax increase like this, just based on the feedback I'm getting at the weekly meetings we hold and just the engagement we have. And if there's any opportunity to look at those costs and maybe dig into those a little bit deeper. And also just a bigger picture, are we on the right trajectory, or is this a sustainable path in terms of funding new infrastructure, while all the while realizing there will be maintenance involved down the road? So can we factor in those maintenance costs at the onset instead of realizing later, oh, we have a trail to maintain, or we have, Upper Grant Creek Road to maintain from all the snowball users, et cetera. So maybe just looking at this, how we're approaching it, it might be time to look at that a little bit differently. Thanks for your time.
thank you, Kevin. And Chris, did you have some clarification?
I didn't specifically around that. I mean, I think the challenge that Mr. Davis points out around how we fund the ongoing piece of maintenance is a good one. The big challenge around that, of course, is that those are the areas where other funding always becomes the most difficult. Folks are, we can be successful in getting, for example, grants for roads, for bridges, those kinds of things. And we've had some good success in the past, but the challenge always is, unfortunately, those kinds of funds, like grant funds from the federal and state level, aren't available for those kind of maintenance activities, and how we address those as we go into the future, unfortunately, right now, at least, has been left to local governments to figure out in the form of property taxes. Certainly during the legislative session, and Commissioner Slotnick, you may want to talk about this, you put forward a kind of innovative approach that would have specifically created some funding both for property tax relief, but also towards infrastructure that might have kind of addressed some of these challenges, or at least been a start to some of those challenges. We certainly have seen in communities where a resort tax has been passed that the ability to fund infrastructure, these kinds of needs and maintenance has pretty significantly shifted away from property taxes.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
Thanks, Chris. So I guess I'd be almost responding to what you said, Mr. Davis, the kind of standard recipe, I'm going to stay away from formula, but a recipe for dealing with large infrastructure in smaller places like ours is that we look toward the state and to the feds for doing larger projects, big intersections, large road redevelopments, bridges. We could not do this without the federal government and the state government. The numbers are just too big. If you look at the costs on some of those bridges that Jason Mitchell had up earlier, you'd see, some of those bridges, it's add a few of them together, and that's most all the tax revenue we generate for all things in 1 year. The only way we can do this is with the state and the feds. And as Chris said, the state and the feds come up with the money for construction, but not for ongoing maintenance. Ongoing maintenance, according to this recipe, is left to local governments, whether that's a city or a county. That's just how it works. And unfortunately, our only tool here is property taxes. And as Chris mentioned, we looked at other ways we could do this besides just taxing people who pay rent or live in houses, specifically looking at our tourists who use these roads and don't pay directly for their maintenance. And we'll keep after it. The recipe that we have right now is entirely inadequate, and it's the one we've been given to work with. So we'll keep trying to add to our revenue generating picture to make this a more fair system so that everybody who drives and uses these roads helps pay for them.
Thank you. Stromer.
Well, all I'll say is that what we're doing today is giving the choice to voters in Missoula County, and we shall see if they have the appetite to pay $2 a month to at least take an incremental step towards improving our infrastructure.
Oh. Slotnick property taxes. Yes.
Just one small thing. The legislature passed 2 laws this year, one in the Senate and one in the House, that really change our property tax picture. It used to be that if you are paying property taxes, and you absolutely pay property taxes if you rent or if you own a home, the tax rate on your property was 1.35%. That's changed dramatically. Right now, for the first $400,000 in value on your property, you pay at 0.76%. That's a big drop down from 1.35. If you go from 400,000 up to 1.5 million, the rate is 1.1%. Still a big drop down from 1.35. Well, what this most likely means, and we have to crunch all the numbers and there's lots of variables, but what this most likely means is that if you have a median priced home, or even a bit more, and definitely a little bit less, and we were to use the same amount of mills last year, you would be paying less in property taxes. Now we'll crunch all the numbers. We're going to need more mills because mill value is down. It gets really weedy, and the 7 people here will all be asleep. But this is a really good year to be paying property taxes, given what the legislature did. There is new space to do new things. And I'm very much appreciative that the legislature took this step.
Well said. Any more comments? Hear from Jason or? Oh yeah, come on up.
I don't.
And then just
maybe
go
this
ahead,
isn't-
state
okay.
your name.
Dara Wilson,
Thanks.
and I don't represent anybody but just a Missoulian. So going back to what the Reserve Street Working Group man said, and you can fund things with grants to fund the actual construction of the infrastructure, but then you don't have maintenance dollars. So maybe we don't do as much new infrastructure. I live up on Enderlin Road, and a couple years ago, it got chip sealed. We were like, wow, this is cool. It's getting chip sealed. I don't know how that was funded, but like maybe just don't do that if we're not going to have money to maintain it later. That's my only comment. Thanks.
Thanks, Tara. And then Jason, do you have a chip sealing comment?
Yeah, just the fact that chip seal actually harden the overlay and tends to increase the life of a pavement overlay for 10 to 15 years. So chip sealing is a economical way to kind of preserve the overlay. So just one of the tools in our toolkit to kind of preserve our pavement.
It was a dirt road before. That's
Okay.
why. That's why I said
those millions.
Yep. Yeah, so yeah, it could have been millings, which MDT provides us as they rip up their pavement for their projects. They give us millings at no cost, so it's another tool that we use to kind of provide hard surfaces. The issue with gravel roads is, and one of the first things I did when when I came in, I asked our county engineer to do a life cycle report, a 10-year life cycle of gravel roads, millings roads, overlays. And gravel roads actually are expensive if they're maintained to our constituent standards. We're doing a lot of mag chloride, like grading 3 to 4 times a year. So when we can transfer roads to hard surfaces, it's often a cost savings over the next 10 years. So especially if the millings are free from MDT.
But Dara, your point's well taken. Like trying to weigh all of this is.
Agreed. Thank you for your comment.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'd also say, if you look across the United States, not just Montana and not just our county, investment in public infrastructure yields private prosperity everywhere. Look at the businesses that are alongside well-developed roads, the homes that are alongside well-developed streets and neighborhoods. If we choose not to develop these things, we will not see commercial activity follow. In our undeveloped, in terms of commercially undeveloped areas, as we improve infrastructure and put in things like curb, gutter, sidewalk, actual streets, commercial development follows. It's a tough one to swallow. We pay a little bit, and then we see commercial development come in afterwards. If you visit other places in the country and other places on the earth, you can see where public investment doesn't happen. There is way less private investment after the public investment.
Yeah, the only thing that I would add, just in terms of the challenges that we're wrestling with and what we're discussing here as an option to address some of those challenges, is basically we have about a century or more worth of deferred maintenance out there. So what at first blush might seem like a new piece of infrastructure is actually something that's going to put an old piece of infrastructure like a Boy Scout bridge that is completely closed. It'll put that back in service. So yes, will that be a new bridge? Hopefully at some point at Boy Scout and other places, yes. But the option of not creating that new infrastructure, that new replacement infrastructure, is that we're going to have a road that's closed for decades to come.
Switching gears a little bit back to the gravel pit, it's at Barber Creek.
That's correct.
Right. And my understanding on groundwater monitoring is that this has to be done at the highest level of groundwater.
That's correct. To do it over a 1-year period to ensure that you're staying, I believe our county engineer just said 3 feet above the groundwater, so we're not polluting the groundwater whatsoever.
If we've been in a drought for, go ahead.
So we can't say, oh, great, we're going to do groundwatering tomorrow. We finally got somebody on it. We'll be able to be into that gravel pit by the end of the month. We have to wait for high groundwater to make sure that we're not digging into where high groundwater is, and high groundwater is in June.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Okay, well then I do have a question about drought, because how does that work?
I think if I remember right, and please correct me if I get it wrong, I think it's 85%. If we're less than 85% of the historical average, we have to wait and try it again. And the historical average isn't forever, it's the last 10 years. So the last 10 years keeps moving up. So we are attempting to account for obvious changes in climate and precipitation patterns.
Motion. Unless there's anyone else. Okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
Yeah. I'd move to approve the resolution calling for submitting to the electors of Missoula County the question of whether the Board of County Commissioners should be authorized to levy $1.8 million for the purpose of funding the construction, repair, and maintenance of county roads, bridges, and trails.
Second.
Any further discussion or public comment? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Oh. Go ahead, Kevin. Oh, maybe he take his hand down. Okay. I believe do we have any other business? Okay, we're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, commissioners.